I'm Jane Smiley. I was born in California, raised in Missouri, lived many, many years in Iowa, both in Iowa City and in Ames, and now I live in California. I've written somewhere around 20 books and counting. Well, I like to be on the back of a horse, which is quiet in some ways and not in other ways. It's quiet in that nobody is talking to you, but it's not quiet in that the horse is doing stuff and you have to do stuff too. But I find it induces a state of kind of mental relaxation in me to concentrate on how to get the horse to do this or how to get the horse to do that, or how to get the horse not to do stuff like bucking or shying or running away. So I find the back of a horse is the quiet place that I like. No phones ringing. I never take my cell phone on the back of a horse. I have a little office that's between the bedroom and the kitchen, basically, and I have a chair that leans backward, and I have a laptop that sits on a little tilted desk. Well, I used to have better concentration, but I've gotten work done almost everywhere. On a plane, on a train, in the kitchen with the children screaming. If I have to do it, I'll do it. Riding a horse, or cooking, or knitting, or sleeping. But my batteries are pretty active, you know. Another way to recharge is to look at the bank account and say, oh, what do I need, you know. I love being asked to do things. There's very few times that I turn down a magazine piece. And so, you know, that has not been a problem with me. Thinking up things to write about has not been a problem with me. I love an assignment. Never minded an assignment. I was a good student. Probably the word just, as in he just did such and such. I don't know why that is. I find that if I'm pondering, if I'm rushing along, then there usually isn't stuff that has to go out. But if I'm pondering and working, I find there's often too many commas, and I think that's because I put a comma there because I pause to think. And so the prose comes across as very stiff because of all those commas. So that's something I have to be careful about. Well, you know, several years ago I would have said sex, but that's not true anymore. I think I've included everything. I mean, part of my work at this point is writing horse books for girls, middle school girls, and the occasional boy. And there are male characters, and there will be a rodeo eventually, so maybe the boys will read that one. So now that I'm doing those books, I'm including a lot of stuff about horses, horse training, thinking about power relationships between people and animals, those sorts of things. Maybe I started to do the horse books because I wanted to write more about those sort of things from a more basic perspective rather than a sort of political perspective. So I can't think of anything I haven't included so far, but you know, if there are more books in the offing, I hope they'll include things that I haven't included so far. I think all the dimensions to any activity are the dimensions that are already present in your mind. And I wouldn't say that there's a particularly spiritual dimension present in my mind. There may be a transcendent dimension, or a dimension that appreciates nature, or a dimension that appreciates the inner lives of horses or children or whatever. But I think that spiritual in our world has become sort of a toxic word. And although I sometimes explore ideas of religion or God or whatever, I would never say there's a spiritual dimension in my work. I think being a writer is a self-identified thing, and you usually start by being a reader and wanting to participate in what that writer is doing, and then you sort of identify yourself as someone who writes, and then you become someone who writes by writing. Whatever kind of success or dissemination you get, I think that's largely has to do with hard work and luck. I used to say anybody can be a novelist. You just have to work hard and give up a lot of things. And in some ways, it's possible that you could give up everything to become a novelist, because being a novelist is more about learning how to do things than having an innate gift. I think there are some things like being a mathematician or being a musician or being an athlete that come from having innate gifts, but and even being a poet. But I think being a novelist is really a learning process, because nobody has all the innate gifts of writing novels. You know, not even Charles Dickens, for example. He was very good at style, he was very good at character, but he wasn't much for structure and plot, so he had to learn that. And every novelist has something that they have to learn in order to become a novelist, which means that every novelist is more of a tortoise than a hare. And it also means that people who maybe don't think of themselves as writers, in other words, having a gift for language, they could also be novelists if they had insight into character or insight into plot or suspense or profound ideas or something like that. It astounds me that people want to be novelists. I was just at a conference and there were people there who were extremely successful in what they did, and you'd say, what is it that you want to do? And they'd say, I want to write a novel. And I would say, you're kidding me, right? You know, why give up this specific thing that you obviously have a great flair for in order to write a novel? Don't know. Want to tell a story. So it must be a human, deeply human desire to tell a story.